Welcome back to the deep dive. We're really digging into bipolar disorder, and today we're going deep, like really deep, into how it rewires your thinking.
Absolutely. This is crucial stuff.
We've got research articles coming out our ears, personal stories, clinical guidelines, the whole shebang, ready to untangle this web.
Let's do it. Understanding how bipolar disorder messes with your thinking. I mean, that's huge for support and busting stigma.
Okay, so we're all on the same page about the whole intense mood swings thing, right? But the stuff you shared, it's not just like asterisk feeling, asterisk up or down. It's like bipolar disorder throws a wrench in the whole system. Like, what's the science behind that?
You're spot on. It's not just in your head, it's actually physical. The research points to some key differences in, get this, actual brain areas that handle emotions, thinking, all of it.
No way, really.
Yeah. Neurotransmitters, those chemical messengers, they're all out of whack. We're talking dopamine, serotonin. The balance is basically impossible to find.
So it's deeper than just a chemical imbalance then. It's like those imbalances actually change how the brain is structured.
Bingo. We see it in brain imaging studies. Areas like your prefrontal cortex, the big boss of decision-making, right? And your amygdala, that emotional control center, they function way differently in people with bipolar.
So it's like their brains are like hardwired for intensity, both the highs and the lows, the whole package.
Exactly. And this wiring, well, it directly impacts how someone thinks during both manic and depressive episodes.
Speaking of which, let's talk about mania. That super intense high. What's actually going on in their mind? It's like someone hit fast forward on their brain, right? A million thoughts a minute.
It's called racing thoughts, and it's overwhelming. It's like ideas are coming nonstop, but a lot of times they're, well, a little out there, not really grounded in reality.
Okay, so that explains those impulsive behaviors. Like the spending sprees, starting a million projects and finishing none. That's the neurological overdrive in action.
Precisely. We have to remember this isn't just being happy. It's a total shift in how their brain is perceiving reality.
And that's where things can get really messy, right? When you're seeing the world through that lens, every decision is affected.
No doubt. That's why this is so important to understand. It's not just about managing the mood swings themselves. It's about addressing the thinking that drives those behaviors in the first place.
And that leads us to the other side of the coin, the depressive episodes. How does bipolar depression mess with someone's thinking?
This is where things get really hard.
Yeah.
It's easy to just say, oh, they're really sad, but it's so much more than that. Your source material calls them cognitive distortions, basically thinking errors.
So like black and white thinking, where one little thing goes wrong and suddenly their whole life is over.
Perfect example. Or catastrophizing, blowing everything out of proportion. It's like their brain becomes this funhouse mirror, distorting everything.
So their own mind becomes their own worst enemy. These distortions, it's got to be really hard to even function day to day.
Absolutely. Even simple stuff feels impossible. Self-criticism is constant. And here's the kicker. Those negative thoughts, they make the depression even worse. It's a vicious cycle.
Okay, so we've got these two extremes. Manic highs, depressive lows, both rooted in these fundamental brain differences. But it goes beyond just managing the individual episodes, right? There's long-term impact too, isn't there?
You're right. And frankly, it's concerning. The research you shared shows just how serious those long-term effects can be, especially if bipolar disorder goes untreated. But that's a whole other can of worms. A whole can of worms is trying. We're not just talking about forgetting where you put your keys here.
Yeah.
The research you've been going through really paints a stark picture of potential cognitive decline.
Yeah, it's serious stuff. Impairment to memory, attention span, even those executive functions like planning and decision-making. Things we rely on every single day.
And it's not even limited to when someone's in the throes of a mood swing. Even when things are relatively stable, the research suggests bipolar disorder can still leave its mark on how well someone thinks.
It's like running a marathon without any training. No rest, no recovery. Eventually, your body just can't keep up.
Exactly. It takes its toll. And the material you shared, it mentions how much this decline can impact daily life, right? Holding down a job, relationships, even basic self-care, it's a recipe for disaster.
It's like this hidden cost of bipolar disorder that nobody really talks about, but we need to address it because it goes way beyond just managing those individual episodes. It's about protecting your brain for the long haul. And that's where treatment comes in, right?
100%. Early intervention, consistent treatment, that's key. We're talking medication therapy. They both play a huge role, not just in smoothing out those mood swings, but also potentially putting the brakes on those long-term cognitive effects.
So it's like a two-pronged attack. Manage those immediate symptoms and build up those cognitive reserves for the long game. And I know one therapy that comes up a lot is cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT. Does that one live up to the hype?
Absolutely. CBT is like rewiring those thought patterns.
Yeah.
You learn to spot those automatic negative thoughts, challenge them, and swap them out for something healthier.
It's like building a mental toolkit, equipping yourself to navigate those emotional minefields.
Exactly. You're not just along for the ride, you're learning to take the wheel. That's powerful.
Right.
Not just for managing symptoms, but for taking back your life.
We touched on it earlier, but I wanted to circle back to the stigma surrounding bipolar disorder. How does that play into all of this?
Stigma is a major roadblock for a lot of people. Imagine already dealing with the intense mood, swings, the messed up thinking, the potential for your brain to literally not work as well. On top of all that, you've got people judging you, misunderstanding you. It's isolating and it keeps people from getting help.
It's like this invisible weight they have to carry around on top of everything else.
That's why it's so important to talk about these things, to educate ourselves. The more we understand the realities of bipolar disorder, the better equipped we are to shut down those harmful stereotypes and create an environment where people feel supported and safe asking for help.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. The neuroscience behind bipolar disorder, the thought patterns, the potential for things to get worse over time, the impact of stigma. But we can't end on a downer, right? What does the research say about effective treatment and coping strategies for managing bipolar disorder and its impact on thinking?
The good news is there are tons of tools available, and it often starts with getting professional help.
Okay, so finding a qualified therapist, figuring out the medication situation, those are good first steps.
Absolutely. Medication can help get those moods under control, which then makes it easier to really dive into therapy. And like we talked about earlier, CBT can be super effective for tackling those distorted thought patterns.
And what about the day-to-day stuff? We all know taking care of ourselves physically is important for our mental health, but is that even more important for someone with bipolar disorder?
It's not just important, it's fundamental. The research is clear on this. Lifestyle choices have a huge impact on both mood and cognitive function in bipolar disorder. We're talking sleep, exercise, diet. All of it matters.
Okay, so let's break it down. Why is sleep so crucial for someone with bipolar disorder?
Well, think of it this way. Sleep is your brain's chance to recharge, to sort through memories, to flush out toxins. For someone with bipolar disorder, even small disruptions to their sleep can set off those mood swings and make those cognitive difficulties even worse.
It's like you're starving your brain of the rest it desperately needs. Okay, so we've got to talk about those sleep hygiene tips. What's the deal there?
Consistency is key. Having a regular sleep schedule is huge for regulating mood and protecting those cognitive functions long term.
And how about exercise? It's good for stress and mood for pretty much everyone, but does it play a specific role for people with bipolar?
Absolutely. Exercise isn't just good for your body, it's like a workout for your brain too. Increases blood flow, gets that oxygen pumping to your brain cells, and of course, the endorphin rush.
So it's a win-win. Mood booster and brain booster, all in one.
Exactly. And then there's the food we eat. We really are what we eat, even when it comes to our brains.
So a balanced diet, fruits, veggies, healthy fats, that's all brain food, right?
You got it. And just as important is cutting back on those processed foods, sugary drinks, the stuff that actually works against your brain. You've got to give it the fuel it needs to function.
So sleep, exercise, diet, those are the foundational pillars. But there are other coping mechanisms out there, right?
For sure. And this is where it gets personal. What works for one person might not work for another, but there are some common threads in the research. Mindfulness, stress reduction, a solid support system, those can be game changers.
Okay, so let's break those down. Our source material really emphasized mindfulness practices. What's the deal with mindfulness, and how does that specifically help someone with bipolar disorder?
It's all about learning to observe your thoughts and feelings without judgment. It's like hitting the pause button on that constant mental chatter.
Yeah.
Especially helpful during mood episode, right?
So it's about putting space between the thought and your reaction to it.
Exactly. Mindfulness helps you build that awareness. You can choose how you respond rather than just reacting automatically.
And the research backs this up, doesn't it? I was reading about studies showing mindfulness-based therapies can actually help people with bipolar experience mood episodes less often. And when they do, they're not as intense.
It's remarkable. It really shows you the power of the mind-body connection. With practice, mindfulness can be this amazing tool for self-regulation, emotionally and cognitively.
So you're building up those mental muscles for resilience.
I like that. And then there's stress reduction. Chronic stress is toxic to the brain, especially for someone with bipolar disorder. We've got to find ways to combat that.
So yoga, deep breathing, getting out in nature, even just cranking up your favorite music.
Exactly. It's about finding what works for you and making those stress-busting activities part of your routine.
And of course, we can't forget about social support. We've mentioned it before, but it's worth saying again.
You're so right. Having people you can lean on is huge. Family, friends, a support group, a therapist, anyone who gets it, who you can talk to openly. It can make all the difference in the world.
It's about knowing you're not alone in this, that there are people out there who care, who want to help. And that can be incredibly empowering, especially when things get rough.
Couldn't agree more. That sense of connection, of belonging, it's like an antidote to the isolation that often comes with mental health challenges.
This has been such an eye-opening conversation. We've talked about so much, the neuroscience, the thought patterns, the potential challenges, the stigma. But if there's one thing I hope our listeners take away, it's that knowledge is power. The more you understand this complex condition, the better prepared you'll be, whether you're navigating it yourself or supporting someone you love.
Absolutely. Understanding how bipolar disorder affects thinking, behavior, the whole picture, that's crucial. It's how we break down stigma and create a more compassionate and supportive world.
So to everyone listening, if any of this resonated with you, remember, you're not alone. Reach out to a mental health professional, connect with others, keep learning. There's a whole community out there, and there's hope for a brighter future. And remember, the brain is amazingly adaptable. With the right support and tools, people with bipolar disorder can live full and meaningful lives. It's a journey, but recovery and well-being are definitely within reach.